what we're supposed to do, the role we're supposed to play as citizens and especially players in these sectors, to ensure that we participate and we have a process that is all inclusive, and we have a process that a budget that we understand, and the things that we know are important to our children, and also the gender ministry and issues around gender and children in general.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we are back, and we are very happy that you have joined us, especially those online or on our Zoom platform. In raising questions, and also you can participate through sending your messages, and also you can participate through speaking up and just being able to ask questions and contribute in whichever way possible. So let me start with saying that this is a very important process, and we thought it very, very important for us to engage and to have one or two discussions around this area, because it's very important, and it's an area that we most of the time we forget, and later on we start crying and making noise that the government hasn't done this, the budget drafters have not included this. So from here now we move tomorrow to KICC, where we are going to have these hearings, and people participate in this hearing. So we hope that from this today, tomorrow you'll be able to participate in those hearings at KICC, because tomorrow is the final day. So we have our guest here, and I know most of you who are watching us through our platforms, maybe I've seen him. Those who have joined us on YouTube, you've seen him, and I think this is an area that he's very, very passionate about, and I thought it wise to have him here with us so that he can break this down for us, so that we can get a better understanding about these, processes and what it takes about. So, Karibu Sana Don. He's called Elijah Bonyo. Let me just say him, and then he will introduce himself better about what he does and what he's passionate about. Karibu Sana.
Asante Sana Collins. This is Elijah Bonyo from World Vision Kenya, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, asante sana Don. First of all, you've been following these processes yes, happening from Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Briefly, just tell us, when do this, because some of us get shocked, when we hear. Actually, it's the first time I'm hearing, about. I was following on TV the other day, and following the proceedings, and most of us don't really understand when does the budgeting process begin, yes. And most of the time we just see the final product, which is the reading in June.
Yes. Thank you very much, Collins. I'm happy you are reminding us that most of us interact with the budget reading sometime later in the year. The budget process is a continuous process. Every year, at the end of August, the National Treasury often issues a circular that provides specific dates and specific activities in the budget process. There's a law known as Public Finance Management Act, that provides for a number of things for financial management in Kenya. However, budget process specific dates is an annual event through a circular issued by National Treasury. Now, you know how the government works. The first quarter of government is July, August, and September. Now, during that first quarter, the government, every department develops their report for the previous financial year. So, July, August, September, what happens? You develop your report for the previous financial year. How do you do that? They undertake what's known as performance review. Now, the performance review enables you to demonstrate how you utilized the resources for the previous year and what you achieved. It enables you to isolate what are the critical emerging issues that you need to take note of, and then priorities for the next financial year. The output from that process is known as the sector working group report, which sometimes people want to talk about it as sector budget proposal. Now, that's the first quarter. However, in terms of government planning, the government plans in a 5-year phase. Right now, we are just beginning a new administration 5-year phase. But the 5-year phase of government in terms of planning is known as the medium-term phase. So the medium-term planning phase comes to what we call a medium-term expenditure framework. What it does, if the government plans for 5 years, it follows, therefore, it has to budget and estimate what it requires for all that period. So this year, we are in a transition year. We are still implementing a budget for the financial year 2022-2023 to close the third medium-term phase. The next phase of government then starts in July 1 for the next fourth medium-term phase. Now, this could be a bit technical, so perhaps we need to start asking ourselves, how do the people engage with the process? Because what I'm saying is largely a technocrat business, but really the budget's for the people. So how do the people engage? Why do people get into it at the tail end? I think that could be perhaps a critical thing to reflect on.
All right, thank you very much. This sounds to be a very interesting year. Maybe from your own, you've interacted with these budgets, and I understand maybe you might have interacted with the previous transitions when governments are transitioning to, especially the maybe Moi Kibaki in 2013, then to Uhuru Kenyatta, then Uhuru Kenyatta to William Ruto. Maybe you, what is there any difference between these two transitions in terms of budgeting for children from your own understanding?
Yes, absolutely. You know, the previous administration had what was largely known as the Big Four agenda. And the Big Four agenda was driving, planning, prioritization, and budget over the last phase, right? Now, this new administration had a manifesto. Now, their manifesto right now, they've already translated that manifesto into priorities. These priorities are already in the fourth medium-term plan. There's a draft plan. Now, the difference starts with what is it that the previous administration was passionate about, committed about, and what is it that this new administration is passionate about and committed about. So the difference in terms of priorities, high level priorities, that is well demonstrated in this new administration's manifesto. And therefore, if you may not want to interact with the manifesto, what was in the manifesto now has been put already in the fourth medium-term plan.
Yeah. All right. Now, maybe you could also tell us a little bit about what does in this budget, this administration that is coming, how does budgeting for children look like? Is there anything new that maybe people who are working with the children's sector should be should be happy about, or should be looking into?
Let's talk about budgeting for people before we narrow down to budgeting for children.
All right.
Right now, what do people require? A number of people are going without food. So people want food, right?
Yes.
If you look at the effects of drought, there's a serious food security situation now that needs to be dealt with. We have 23 counties, most of the time they're known as ASAL counties, where people are in need of food. In the urban informal settlements, people are in need of food. Why am I talking about people? Food is a right for everyone, the adults, the young people, and children. Now, we need to look at where is the food going to come from? Why are people not having food? Right? And will the food be there tomorrow? Food, do not wait for governments to plan and budget. So people want food now, because otherwise tomorrow people are going to die.
Yeah.
So in my view, one of the critical issues is food. And if you go to the context of children, we have serious children nutrition challenges, which is resulting from lack of food. So I think one of the things that we need to consider as we talk about budgeting for children is food of nutritious value for children. Then people are looking for access to water, clean and safe water. Most importantly, piped water, right? What explains why certain parts of the country are not having access to clean and piped water? Now, lack of water will then contribute to communicable diseases, diarrhea, for example. So is food, right now people are looking for food, people are looking for clean water, and people are looking for jobs. We have a number of young families, young fathers and young mothers who are looking for jobs so that they're able to get income to provide for themselves and their children. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Maybe now, before we get deeper into these conversations to the specific state departments, I would also like to remind those who have joined us online on YouTube and also via our Zoom platforms that you can participate in this conversation by sending your message through the chat. If you are on Zoom, you can share your message through the chat, and also you can also participate by just voicing your views on this subject that we are discussing. This is a very important discussion, and we know it will have an impact on the budget that is going to come, that is towards in the middle of this year. So you are very welcome to share your views and also be able to speak up what you think is right. So you can also follow us on our social media platforms at Mtoto News, and also on our YouTube platform. You can share that link on YouTube. The conversation continues, and so that other people can also join the conversation. Let me, I was going through these reports, and especially the financial year 2020, 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, then 2021, 2022. It seems like, COVID really affected us so much. Is it that COVID affected us so much, or it's just, that the way things are being reported is like, COVID is being blamed to have affected us?
The truth is COVID affected everyone. COVID affected people at household level. It affected community dynamics and community engagement. It affected implementation of programs. It affected government delivery of services. You remember, many people did not have access to income opportunities due to restrictions. So the reality is that the 2020 and 2021 period, COVID really affected everybody. And it is true. So if the reports are demonstrating that the effects of COVID affected government service delivery, then that is true. Yeah, it really depends on how it is demonstrated, but it's really true.
Okay.
Yes.
So, all right. So because if you look at the reports, you realize that most of the reasons why certain things were not implemented fully, you'll be told, like, the money was diverted to this, the money was diverted to this. Yes.
Okay.
Yet at that time, government officials were being paid. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Let's put this into context. I just pointed out that there's something known as performance review.
Yeah.
Now, how government plans, right now, we have what you call program-based budgets. So all government sectors, departments have program-based budgets. Now, program-based budgets have outcomes, outputs, and key performance indicators, right? Now, because of the third medium-term plan, the government had planned for 5 years. And therefore, there are outputs to be achieved every year for you to achieve your outcome at the end of 5 years. So we need to look at this from the financial year 2018, 2019. What were the program output targets and how are the annual targets distributed? Then from there, we're able to demonstrate which targets were achieved and which ones were not achieved. And for every target not achieved, there has to be a reason. So the government template, if you want to call it a template, during performance review, it gives government officials opportunity to provide reasons for any target overachieved or any target underachieved. And those targets achievement are associated with resource utilization, what we call expenditure. So for every program, for every output, there has to be resources that were allocated, and the government then is able to demonstrate these targets were achieved, this is the resource utilization, there was under expenditure or over expenditure. Now, government has a monitoring and evaluation framework. The State Department for Planning provides the overall guidance on government M&E, right? Now, every year, there's an M&E framework that every government department then has. And that framework provides for that there should be a quarterly report. So there's a quarterly program report that government should produce, and then there's a quarterly budget implementation report. So some of the things that you are pointing out now, perhaps we need to look at them. Are they systemic? Is it a trend, or that are they just emerging now? So I think every issue should be looked at its own context.
All right, thank you very much for clarifying that. Maybe now, before you go into sector, the specific sector budgets or for highlights for this financial year, I would like us to to take stock of the 2020, 2021, 2022. What are some of the things that the key highlights, the key things that we can say were fully achieved according to the budget, or we fully, the children benefited? Okay.
Allow me to run away from responding on behalf of government. Government is a duty bearer. Okay. And it's government to explain what it achieved. And it makes a lot of sense for people to ask that question. Yeah. There was a government for 5 years. Every government had technocrats at various levels. There are directors, technical people. So if, for example, people want to know, what did you achieve on water, right? Has the access to water improved? Yes, it has improved. If you look at the situation in 2018 and the situation now, access to water has improved. Where are the facts? The facts are in the water sector report.
Maybe what I'm trying to say,
yes. I'm just trying to say that whatever I'm going to share in terms of the change, yes, should be credible enough from the sources. And there's a challenge in the sense that there's a way in which government provides information on what is achieved. There's a way in which us as the public also perceive or claim or demonstrate that there's an achievement or an achievement. So if we go, what has government achieved? I can only rely on what they have written.
Okay.
And that's there for everyone to read. What is it that they have achieved from my perspective as a citizen? Again, that's a different matter.
Now let me ask you now as a citizen,
yes,
Elijah Don Bonyo.
Yes.
What are these things that you feel like, were well achieved, okay, or according to you, yes, as Elijah? Yes. Is there anything that you can say?
Yes,
this one was well done?
Road network.
Yes.
If you look at the road network situation in 2017 and the road network now, there's achievement. A number of roads are tarmacked. There are places that where there are no roads, they have been opened up, and now there are roads. And this is attributed to both national government and county government. So access to markets in some places is now possible. There are places where farmers were unable to get to the market because of roads. Now they are able to get there because of roads. Access to water, like I said, there are communities that are now having access to water. Yes, we know that others who do not have. We have seen dams that were constructed and people now who have water. In the education sector, we have seen improvement. There are schools that have improved infrastructure. Yes, we know that the infrastructure is still a challenge, but there are schools that got resources from the government, and the infrastructure, especially classrooms, were improved. There are schools that got desks. We know that teachers were hired. So there are situations where people would be saying the teacher to people ratio is still bad, but yes, there was improvement on hiring of teachers, for example. Internet connectivity, there are a lot of ICT related improvements. Access to healthcare, look at the number of people who are enrolled in NHIF, for example. It has improved. Look at community health. Community health has improved. You have seen a number of county governments who have hired community health volunteers, and their access to community health programs, especially preventive programs, has improved. So there are several things that have improved.
Now let's talk about how about on the projections on child protection.
Now, if you narrow down to child protection, let's look at it from what are some of the root causes of the things that children are confronted with today. Now, it's estimated that around 254 plus cases of child neglect are reported every day. Why would we have child neglect? Right? It's because either people are having children that they cannot take care of. So you have children, but because of certain circumstances, you are not able to take care of their children, and then you end up neglecting them. And why are people not taking care of their children? Why are we having child neglect? Now, when you neglect your children, then your children are likely to get to the streets. When they get to the streets, they are likely to get into child labor. When they get into child labor, they are likely to get into child trafficking. When they get child trafficking, they are likely to get to commercial sexual. So it's something that's connected. So the child protection sector, a lot of things that we are dealing with have to deal with household capacities, household resilience. How strengthened are our households? Are households able to take care of their own children? Are they able to provide food for their own children? Are they able to provide basic needs for their own children? Are the nyumba kumis able to protect their own children in their own community? So if there's a problem in the household, chances are there'll be a problem in the community, and then you're likely to see more child protection cases.
Yeah.
But the contrary also, the reason why you are seeing a lot of child protection cases being raised is because people are now empowered. People are able to identify this is a child protection case, and they're able now to report it. So the increased reporting, the increased evidence we have is also because people now know what are these child protection issues. If you look at child pregnancy, it's estimated that I think close to 300,000 cases of teenage pregnancy are reported every year. Now, why are we having teenage pregnancies? Why are we having child fathers and child mothers? There could be a problem at the household level, or community level, or in the schools, because children are either in the house, in the community, or in the schools. So the root cause of some of these things are household level issues, community level issues, or school level issues, and of course the entire system issues.
So you can say we've done well so far. We are doing well.
I can tell you there's always room for improvement.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a yes or no answer.
We are doing well as a country. We only need to improve.
We need to improve.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now that is from. So would you say the highlights of the issues that were to be addressed in the previous financial year were fully settled?
Okay. Allow me to just remind us that when the government is developing its 5-year medium term, the 4th medium term plan, they have done reviews. So the 4th medium term plan provides information on our current situation.
Okay.
Right? That information is sectoral. If you look at the pillars of Vision 2030, we have enablers, there's a situation analysis. The economic pillar is a situation analysis. The social pillar and the political pillar. If you narrow down to children, in the 4th medium term plan, there's a specific section on the social pillar that talk about the vulnerable groups, children, youth, and women. So there's information on that situation. In my view, that situation does not look good.
Okay.
That is why then we have to really be deliberate to plan for the vulnerable groups.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. I think you've explained that better. Now let's move to the highlights for this budget.
Yes.
How does it look like? especially in terms of child protection and issues around gender?
Good. Let us start with how the new administration has organized its government. There's an executive order that was issued last year, but then it was revised again this year in January. In that executive order, it provides for how government is organized. It provides for various sectors and state departments and their mandates, including parastatals. Now, when we talk about children, we may not find the issues of children in one specific place as a state department. If you look at access to health, the right to health for children, we have the Ministry for Health. And remember, it's a shared responsibility with county governments. So when you talk about the highlights for children, it's like we have to start looking at it from a rights perspective. If you look at the highlights on the right to health, then look at the State Department for Health. If you look at it in the right to education, then look at the State Department for Basic Education, for example. If you look at social protection, then look at the State Department of Social Protection. So the way the highlights are presented, they're a bit sectoral, but I think for today, we may want just to narrow down to the child protection sector, as you asked, or the gender-related affairs, because otherwise, if you went to children, then you have to go to Article 53 of the Constitution and look at the rights the way they are.
Okay.
Then take the approach known as rights-based budgeting.
All right, let's dive into child protection.
Yes.
Yes. What are the key highlights?
Now, allow me first of all I can project if you want. Let's look at the way the government is organized. I wouldn't want to go to what are the key highlights before we know how the government is organized. And am I able to, let me check if I'm able to share the screen. Yes, if this will help us. And okay, just confirm you're able to see this. I'm able to see it.
It's loading.
Okay. Now, this is how the government is organized right now. This is what we call organization of government. And you can see this is a document that is issued January 2023. It is the first order this year. Now, if the public do not understand this, there will be a challenge with engaging with government. You may not know which department of government are you engaging with.
Yes.
If you don't understand this, you may be asking the right question, the right budget question,
To the wrong people.
to the wrong government department. Now, this document is a public document, and you can see here, I just want to give you who it's communicated to. So it's a responsibility. Let's ask ourselves, how come the many people in the grassroots do not have this? So perhaps it's the responsibility of these people that's communicated to share it with the public. Now, if we narrow down to the sector that you wanted to discuss, there's a State Department. I hope you're still seeing the screen.
Yes, it's coming, but I think we can't see as you continue scrolling. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
There we are. Are you seeing State Department for Gender?
I think we are still to.
Maybe it's loading. But let me just explain. If you want to talk about gender and affirmative action issues, right?
Yes.
Look at what are the functions of that State Department. Is it loading?
Yeah, it's still loading.
Okay.
But I think we can continue.
Yeah, what I'm saying is
Yes, here we are.
that State Department, see their functions.
Yes.
Gender policy, management. Now, we have to first interrogate what are the provisions in the gender policy. Special programs for women empowerment, gender mainstreaming, community mobilization, right? And others. So, if you are interested in engaging in the budget for the State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action, then you have some reading to do. right? Policy implementation largely is through planning and budgeting. So this is something that's important we take note of. I may not want to go to details. So all gender-related affairs or issues, we could look at the State Department for gender, right?
Yes.
Now, the other State Department I wanted to see, there's a State Department for, I hope it will load now faster, for social protection. So when you see that there's a ministry created for labor and social protection, you narrow down to what is the function of that State Department, right?
Yeah.
So you go down and you see child protection. There's no State Department known as child protection.
Yeah.
But there's a State Department for gender, right? Now look at what is provided for that State Department for social protection.
Yeah.
I can tell you that already you have a problem. If you look at the executive order, it talks about State Department for Social Protection and Senior Citizen Affairs. So, when you go to the sector budget estimates, a different description of another State Department. So already, in the month of January, there's a State Department by the executive order known as Social Protection and Senior Citizen.
Senior citizen.
In the same month of January, you go to the social sector report, and the description there is different. Are you getting it? So some of these budget challenges begin at this level, where what the head of state has provided in terms of the description and the functions, like this State Department, these are their functions. If you read all these functions, there's nothing child protection as a function. So you don't see child protection as a function. Look at what we have. If you want to narrow down to children-specific issues, right, you'll see programs for persons with disability. So children with disability will be taken care of under the programs for persons with disability, for example. There are functions around managing children institutions. Now, children institutions in this context are not learning institutions as we know it as schools. There is a community development policy. There is community mobilization, registration of self-help groups. Now, if you read entire this section, right? So you may want to ask yourself, children welfare and penal protection. Read it. So when we are advancing the public, we are excited, we are child protection experts, all these kind of things. But the government does not have distinctively a function known as child protection.
Yeah.
Now, we are reading with you here and now. That's hold on. The functions as issued executive order. There is no clear functions called child protection. So we must understand that child protection can never be one thing. The State Department for Gender has child protection responsibility. The State Department for Education has child protection responsibility. So let's also begin to ask ourselves, do you want to advance a terminology known as child protection? If you want to go that direction, then let's be clear that one of the functions of government to a particular State Department is child protection. So maybe perhaps the Principal Secretary, the new Principal Secretary, may I explain this better than me?
Okay.
But that's what I wanted to point out.
So maybe before we proceed,
Yes.
what's the danger of not having child protection mentioned like exclusively as maybe as a department or as
There's no danger. You see, what happens in our constitution? Have you seen a word called child protection? Explicitly.
No.
What we need to deal with, all children are entitled to certain rights. Are we able to progressively respect, protect, and ensure these rights are fulfilled? If children enjoy all their rights, right, we will not be struggling with responding to child protection issues. So what we should be focusing on, what do we need to do to prevent children from being victims or survivors of certain risks or violations? So fundamentally, children's rights, if we protect those rights and safeguard them, and plan for them well and budget for them well, we don't even need to start talking about we need to protect our children. We should be talking about we need to give our children food, we need to give our children education, we need to ensure our children go to school, we need to love our children. That way, we become more positive and focus on what can help our children enjoy their God-given rights. Now, in this context, a lot of the things we call child protection provided here are more response interventions.
All right. Oh, so what is the risk in terms of maybe budget? Now that we are talking about budget, what are the risks of not having that as a function of the State Department?
Okay, I think maybe we are likely to introduce another topic. Now, let's look at implementation rights. Fundamentally, how rights are implemented. Now, let's not go into international frameworks or regional frameworks. Let's narrow down to our own constitution. In our constitution, in Article 21, implementation of rights is around the state, right? Developing policies and ensuring that there are standards to ensure the rights are implemented. So we need to ask ourselves, how is the state, the Republic of Kenya, organized in a manner that it can implement the rights of children in Article 53 of the Constitution? This is what happens. You pick the right to free and compulsory basic education, and you realize the state has ensured that we have a legal framework known as Basic Education Act. And we have a sessional paper on a policy framework on education. Pick another right, the right to health. There's a Health Act and a health policy. Pick another right, the right to water. There's a Water Act and water policy, right? Now, if we rush into we have to protect our children and we fail to analyze whether our government is organized in a manner that they can progressively implement the rights of children, that's where the problem begins. If you organize your government well, then you design programs that enable implementation of the rights. Then you budget for those programs.
All right, thank you. Now, we were looking at the highlights, the key highlights of the budget. I know you're explaining the, how the state departments have been reorganized.
Yes.
But now you are moving into delving deeper into the key highlights of the budget for that touch directly on child protection. Yes.
Good. So, if you go to what is going to be presented at KICC, what happens? The principal secretary or the chairperson of a sector working group will present the report. The report that they'll be presenting is what we have with us. Now that report is already available in the Treasury website. Now, if you look at that report, there are two sections that are critical. There's a section for performance review, right? The performance review is for a period of time, over the last 3 years. Then there's a section on the priorities for the next financial year and the medium term. So if you're interested, those who are interested in understanding how to engage in discussing the budget proposals as will be presented by the principal secretary tomorrow for that matter, don't rush into what are they planning to do. Start with, what is the issue that concerns me as a citizen? Don't rush into what has government planned to do. Every individual citizen could be having an issue they want government to address. If you come from a community, as a community group, what is your issue as a community that you want government to address? If your issue as a community in the context of social protection is that in your community, the system that protects your children is not very functional. Why is it not functional? Is it that we are lacking government officials in our community who are able to engage with us and ensure we are protected? And who are these officials? Then now we say, we want our community child protection system to be strengthened. Then now we start stressing it. So what's your issue? That's where it should start. But if we quickly run at your government has put this program, these are the targets, it's like we are sanitizing what you don't know.
Okay.
So what I've looked at that I want to share with you, and I'll be very systematic. The performance review, there are certain things, to be honest with you, have not been done very well in terms of structuring what the people want. And for that, I'll just have to show it as it is. I really have no other way. I'll just to project it as it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's go direct. Let's project it.
Okay. So I'll do that now. And so where I want to start from, for purposes of this discussion, is performance. Is a screen showing? You'll have to advise me. Is it showing?
I think not yet.
Okay. Let me hope it comes. Okay, so let's start with, I'll narrow down quickly to the sector that we are keen on, social protection.
Yes.
Is the screen showing now?
I think it started
Okay.
screening. Yes, it's here.
So now you see here, because of time, you can imagine that the State Department for Social Security and Protection has a code here. And I already told you in the executive order, it was called State Department for what? Social Protection and Senior Citizens. So already that's what I was telling you.
Yes.
But here, what the government is giving here is what they did. There's, like, for example, target here known as number of community groups registered. Now, citizens are not interested in the number of groups registered. Citizens are interested, why are you registering the groups? And how are these groups solving a community problem?
Yeah.
So we need to ask ourselves, yes, you are saying community groups are registered, CBOs, for what? Now, if you look at the target here, the last column, 57,000, I hope you're with me.
Yes, I'm with you.
Now, look at the reason. Are you able to see the screen from where you are?
Yes.
Read the reason.
That is high demands for group registration as a result of economic stimulus programs, intervention by state and non-state actors.
Now, what that tells you that citizens are being motivated to register groups because the government programs are demanding that you are registered. That's what it means. So people are coming together for us to get assisted or for us to benefit from a government program. The motivation
is to have
let's
the
register.
groups.
So it means, what this means, that there are certain services that citizens are not getting unless they are organized. So we should be asking ourselves, high demand for economic what? Read it again.
High demand for group registration as a result of economic stimulus programs.
Very good. So out of the 57,000 that were registered, so how many benefited from that program? Fine, you registered 57,000.
It's not indicated.
Those are the things we need to look at. Because the cabinet secretary does not register groups, right?
Yes.
The principal secretary does not register groups. These guys are registered by social development officers at the local level. So the citizens should be going to the local social development office and saying, over the last 5 years, this is data for national. So in my county or my sub-county, groups were registered so that they benefit from economic stimulus. Did they benefit? Now, if they benefited, what have they used the money for? Has the money helped them to improve their own lives? So when we go to ask a question that the number of registered groups is low or high, we are missing it. We should be asking, out of the 57,000 groups that were registered, can you give us this data by county? Can you give us this data by sub-county? Can you give us this data by women groups or youth groups? Then give us this data of how much money each group got from the state, and tell us, for example, the groups that were registered in 2019, are they still there? Have their lives improved? That should be the conversation.
So
why am I saying this?
Yes.
Behind these groups, there are families, there are children. So you empower groups, they are able to provide for their children. Right?
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, this is being carried forward as a target again. There's a problem. I will show you. We have not done a 5-year strategy for this sector.
Okay.
But this sector has already planned for budgeting for 5 years. So you need to ask tomorrow, for example, this is a sector performance review. But before you come to fill the table, where's the performance review report? Where are the details? Those performance review reports are not available at the National Treasury website. They're not available in the website of these ministries. So where's the performance review report? Now, you can't travel from Lamu or Garissa to come and look for a performance review report here. So where's the Garissa review? So there are certain questions that will help government do things better. So you may want to focus on how much money, but if you don't focus on the process. Now, let me give another example specific to children. And this now might be for child protection actors that are here. You'll wonder, of course, many actors collaborate with government, and I'll just give you very, very interesting ones. I hope the screen is scrolling on your end.
Yes, it is.
You are keen on child protection, so I want to show you. For example, look at this. That in a program known as Child Community Support Services, there's an output around alternative family care services provided. So ask yourself, the output is alternative care services provided.
Yes.
But what are we reporting on? So we have trained, what is here, stakeholders trained, children placed in foster care. That is placement, right? Number of reports on children placed, a number of adoption society registered. So there's a problem that for 5 years, we have a department that is responsible for alternative family care services. So we should be providing for service 1, service 2, service 3, service 4, and how people benefited.
Okay.
So we need to be asking, over the last 5 years, beyond this manner of trainings, this manner of reports, so where is the evidence of service provision?
All right. So maybe Don, I've noticed something here about on the child community support services. If you look at the far end, that is the comments, you realize that this was achieved through partner support. This was achieved through partner support. My question is, in case we don't have partners, can't this be achieved through our taxes?
You should be asking 2 questions. Which partners? Where are their names? That's for another day.
All right.
This is state failure. You see, you don't plan for something as government, right?
Yeah.
And budget for it, then come and say, achieved through partners. Now, did you plan with the partners? Did you include the partner budgets? So when you say, I have planned, I have budgeted, there's a column that will show this is government funding, this is partner funding. When you are reporting, show how government funding was utilized to achieve certain targets. But when you say partner support, I think that we are using the word partner in this country very loosely. Which partner? I don't want to, I'm just trying to say these are things we need to interrogate.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Let's continue.
Now, the second one I have to tell you, children forums held. This is government report, and children, families, those who are listening, please ask your children. Now, that we are reporting here that consistently, number of children assemblies are 48. Then we are reporting number of annual celebrations. Is this what children want? Our constitution provides for the objects of devolution, for example, right? Enabling people to manage their own affairs is one of the objects of devolution, right? There are several principles they consider around participation. So if you're talking about number of child forums held, we should be talking about indicators around empowerment of children to participate. So we should be talking about proportions of children who are aware of their rights to participation. We should talk about number of children who are trained to participate. We should talk about number of children who engage in the law making. For example, the children law, the new children law, We know that children participated in developing that new law, but government has failed to even demonstrate that children participated in developing. Unfortunately, that reminds me, if you read the entire report, this report does not even acknowledge that one of the major achievements is a new law for children. So basically I'm saying, under the performance review, colleagues who are listening to me, behind this data, there has to be a performance review report. The guidelines for the National Treasury provides that every sector is supposed to involve sector players to review performance.
Yeah.
So if you are listening to me and you're interacting with this information for the first time, ask yourself, if you're a sector player, if you belong to a government sector working group, where were you when this mess was being created?
So does it mean there's a failure in terms of reporting?
Serious one. I just told you earlier on, Ministry of Finance, National Treasury and Planning, as a government policy on M&D, including guidance to various departments of government on M&D. Right? Now, for me, I'm not interacting with this for the first time. I've seen this every year. We have made recommendations. We even proposed indicators that government can adopt to improve on reporting in the future. If I showed you the recommendations we made last year, this confirms those recommendations were not considered because we proposed how you can better report, what indicators you can adapt. So anyway, let's move forward. There's a new administration. Let's look at what is this new administration up to. But before we get there, there's a big question on State Department for Gender around performance review. Equally, just the same way we have State Department for.
Yeah, I actually had the same concern. But as you're going to address that, there's also another concern here about national events. Should that be an indicator, an achievement?
Let me tell you, if you want to report national events, start with the government calendar events. Say, how many children participated on Madaraka Day? That's a national event. How many children participated on Mashujaa Day? How many children participated on Jamhuri Day? If government is interested in reporting on national forums, every month has national forums. So there's so many every month. So we're just looking at the participation in January, the participation in February, the participation in March, and participation at what level? Community participation, sub-county participation, participation by who? Children across various age groups, boys and girls, children with disability. So fundamentally, if this is what people are going to look at, then people must be ready to ask the right questions.
All right. Sorry, we were coming. We this is intended to educate you, not to attack government, but also if you're in government, I'm sorry, we just have to discuss this, and at least we have to make sure that we get value for our taxes, and also I pay taxes myself, and sometimes I was looking at this report and I was actually, there are so many things that I was trying to look at and I couldn't find anything. For example, the anti-FGM board, I know that's the State Department of Gender.
Yes.
These people have done so many things, but I noticed that they only reported around three items. Around 3 items. So I was asking myself, okay, where's the issue? Is it the people we've mandated these responsibilities, or is it that we just have people who have decided this is how amda tupeleka mahali and tutafanya vitu venye tunataka? Don.
Okay, I'm just looking for what you're asking. Let me just want to respond to it by looking at it.
Yes.
The issue
on
okay, I've got it.
Yes.
Now,
yeah, it is.
So the output is campaign against FGM.
Against FGM, yes.
The problem begins, FGM, the anti-FGM board has a strategic plan with very clear strategic objectives, with very clear M&D framework and targets. So here, if anyone is interested in understanding whether you are working towards ending FGM, these indicators will not demonstrate that, because this indicator is around number of anti-FGM key actors trained and sensitized. So what after sensitization? What did they do? So you need to tell us, you trained people, so what did they do after training? If you trained people in 2018, in 2020, you should be saying the people I trained in 2018 are doing this. If you train people in 2022, we can excuse you. But the people you trained in 2021, tell us what they are doing as a result of the investment in training. Then, sub-county FGM steering committee. Fine, committee for what? So the committee was established. What are they doing? So say we established 40 committees, for example, out of which 20 of them are functional. What does functionality mean? Right? Number of people reached with FGM messages. Now look at this. This is interesting. That the entire year, number of people reached with FGM during international days and events. The entire year, only 2,000 people were reached. So how are they reached? How are they counted? No. So if we are serious around budgeting for children, we have to cure planning for children. We have to cure utilization of data. We have to cure presentation of information. If we take this trend, we are likely to see government budgeting to reach people with messages. I mean, you want to end FGM by budgeting to reach people with messages. You are supposed to looking at what are the village-specific interventions. How can I invest on community Nyumba Kumi members? How can I invest in village elders? How can I invest in religious leaders? What resources do they need for them to end FGM? Then we report the number of villages that the government intervened to end FGM were 60,000 villages, and this is what took place. So we have to take this level for us to end FGM, we need to be clear which villages are FGM free. So we should our target should appreciate villages, for example. So moving forward, I think because of time, what is it therefore that are critical issues that we need to take forward? For those who are listening to us, and of course we may not have time to do all this, we're in a situation where one wing of government, State Department of Planning, is coordinating the finalization of the fourth medium-term plan. Coordinating it very well. It has taken almost 1 year to develop that. With a medium-term plan, every government sector should have a sector strategic plan for the next 5 years. So the question is, the medium-term expenditure framework includes projections for the coming years, right? So we are going to be looking at a budget proposal to solve certain problems. But where is the document that shows the analysis of these problems? It is in the sector strategic plan where we need to show that we have analyzed the problems that the people are facing, and these are the strategies or interventions that will solve these problems, so that you don't reduce me as a member of the public to read your budget proposal, but you don't enable me to read your analysis of my problem. Okay. So the principal secretaries should be able to demonstrate to the public that this is the analysis of your problem. These are your problem as members of the public. This is the analysis of your problem. Out of your problem number 1, this is what we are planning to solve. That can only be found in a sector strategic document or plan. What I've seen, there are good recommendations and good proposals in the fourth medium-term plan. Unfortunately, the first month of implementing the fourth medium-term plan is July this year. The funding for implementing those things should be in this document. I dare you, if you read this document, there are several things that are missing. I can demonstrate to you. What is already being proposed in the fourth medium-term plan is missing in the government budget for the first year of implementing the medium-term plan. So what's the problem? If the same technocrat makes recommendations to national planning on the fourth medium-term plan, they have given recommendations, right? This is what we think the government should do. The same person is supposed to be involved in the sector plan. The same person is involved in that. But when this person is writing, they're writing totally different things.
Oh.
Let me show you one. Let me just show you one. I hope, for example, to end violence against children, right? Let me just show you one of the things that is glaring. I hope you're able to see the screen. Is there program? One of the programs here is Prevention and Response to Violence Against Children for National Prosperity. Sawa. Another program, see here, the National Parenting Program. Now take these programs that are being proposed here, then go back, right? Go back to the document we are looking at here, in what government is planning to do. I'll just show you in a short while. What government is planning to do, and check what they are planning to do. Is it what we are seeing in the medium-term plan? Some of it is missing.
All right.
Let me just show you 1 minute. Now, look for that sector plan, sector budget proposals. Look for a program on prevention and response to violence. Ukipata, tuseme iko.
Prevention and response to violence.
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to find it.
It's a program. In the MTP, it's written a program. Let me help you. Look at, let me show the screen so that then we save on time.
Okay.
Okay. We just trying to send a message of improvement. That's what we are doing. Eh?
Yes.
So, if you see this section, State Department for Social Security and Protection. Are you seeing it on the screen?
It's coming, not yet there.
Okay.
Yes.
You see what's written in program? This is program written social development and
Yes.
social development and children services.
Yes.
Now, but in the medium term plan, you have seen a program known as Prevention and Response to Violence, right?
Yes.
In this section, there's no program like that. Assuming it's being looked at as a sub-program, there's no sub-program like that. We know that the Department for Children Services leads that. So look at what the Department of Children Services has planned to do. These are directorates, right? So I have to show you the Directorate of Children Services, for example.
Okay.
I hope your screen is also scoring. You know, I could be
Yes, it
scrolling
is.
mine and yours is not moving.
It's moving.
Okay, seeing Director of Children Services.
I think you're not yet there. We're still on.
You on?
Yes, it's here.
Is there?
Yeah.
Now, for example, if you want to ask how much money is the Department of Children Services going to get for the next financial year, I would persuade you not to ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
Start with what has the Department of Children planned to do for which they're asking money for.
Okay.
This, what I'm showing you is what they're asking money for. I told you, this culture of just copy pasting is not good. Now look at the same thing. 5 years, we are still talking about number of stakeholders trained on guidelines. And we have planned a target for 5 years, 250, 250, 250, 250. What the hell is this?
So 250 is for 1 year.
Just hold on. I'm saying, you're asking me what has been proposed.
Yes.
So under alternative family care services, the Department Director of Children Services has planned to train stakeholders on alternative care services, but here they're saying guidelines. So I'm asking myself, you are training 250 people in the first year on the guidelines. The second year, you are training 250 people again. Are you seeing what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
There's a problem.
Wow. So that means that every year we have trainings.
So
we'll be doing trainings from, from because I understand from 2022, 2023.
Yes.
Training.
Yes.
2023, 2024 training.
Yes.
2024, 2025 training.
That's what I'm telling you, my brother. When you go through the budget hearing, don't ask how much money have you allocated. Start by asking, what have you planned to do? So I can tell you, the Director of Children's Services, by their own document, have planned to train people on alternative family care guidelines every year. So what's up?
Yeah.
Now, what they are planning to do here, number of children in need of care and protection with support care and protection. They have put the targets. So the question is, if you have a target of 160,000 children that you want to provide services to, where is the data by county? Where is the data by sub-county? Then, what is the unit cost of the service you want to provide? So that when you are tracing the amount of money allocated for service provision for children, then you are looking at number of people that have been planned for, the unit cost for those people, and then you say, this is what we need.
Okay.
Are you getting me?
Yes.
So many of us are quick to have seen the public hearings, and many of us are asking how much money, how much money. Please ask yourself, what is your problem that you want the state to solve? Has the state analyzed your problem? Has the state demonstrated the interventions? Is the state budgeting to solve your problem? Budgeting for children requires that the children themselves are involved. I can tell you, the National Treasury required that every sector consults their stakeholders. And it required that the stakeholders the documentation of how stakeholders were consulted are provided. Ask any child anywhere in the country, were they consulted? We are talking about budgeting for children who are the consumers of children's services. Ask yourself this question. Perhaps if the children were consulted, they would have said, budget for this thing. This is what you want to budget for. Right now, we have public hearings here in the city. Tell me, a child in Wajir, how will he come to KICC? A child in Wajir, the family has no phone, the family has no radio, and you are budgeting for them. So how will a child in Wajir come to KICC to participate? It's a joke. The new law, Children Act 2022, explicitly provides for child participation, section 28, that every matter concerning the child, the children should participate. So we have a government, just hold on, we have a government that is supposed to implement the new law. One of the provisions in that new law is child participation. The same government plans for the same children and violates its own law. What are we talking about? The institution responsible for implementing that law, for example, the National Council for Children's Services, ask them, did they facilitate children to participate in budgeting for children? The Department of Children's Services, ask them. Now, if they did not, what was the limitation? Child participation is so easy. When the schools are open, just go to the schools and ask children, what do you want government to do for you? When the schools are closed, go to the chiefs and tell chiefs, organize children meetings and ask children, what do you want government to do for you? So when children in schools, let them organize themselves in schools. When schools are closed, ask the chiefs. So here we are sanitizing. That's basically what we are doing. So if we allow this process to be finalized without putting a strong case for government to go back and consult children, we are the first violators of children's rights in this country.
So Don, does it mean if tomorrow we wake up, or a child wakes up and goes to court tomorrow and says we've not been consulted on this?
Let me tell you. In my view, failure to do an act is where the problem begins. So, the social security and protection sector, in the gender and affirmative action sector, and other sectors, including it's called governance, justice, law and order. Governance, justice, law and order sector is where the security falls. Now, if all these sectors, if we don't analyze every sector what is their responsibility in the implementation of the new law for children. Then if you don't analyze which programs have each of these sectors designed to implement the new law, they will never budget for these programs. The new law, for example, provides for the establishment of a child protection unit in every police station. We are supposed to be asking the justice, governance, justice, law and order sector under the budget for the National Police Service whether they have a sub-program known as establishment of child protection units in the police stations. If they have, the best target should be how many police stations have that, then how many do you need every year progressively. So if we don't analyze the budget for the national police, you'll never get these child protection units we're talking about. For example, this new law talks about establishment of new structures at the county level. Like remember, I used to have the county advisory councils. So if we don't budget for the establishment or retraining of those people, unfortunately, what has been provided for here in terms of implementing the new law, let me just show you. You wonder whether we are serious about this new law. It's called Children Act. If you have that document, I think there's a problem of connectivity here. If you have that document, scroll down with me on what is put here for Children Act. Even before I get to the Children Act, we have a document known as National Plan of Action for Online Child Sexual Exploitation that was developed, right?
Yes.
Now, are you seeing where I am?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you seeing it? Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Now, so it is important we recognize there's intention to ensure children protected from online abuse. Now look at, you want to protect children from online abuse, but what are you budgeting for? You are budgeting for dissemination of the document. So if you have resources to protect children from online abuse, what would you use the resources for?
Dissemination of the plan.
Now, I would have expected to see what is it that is that plan. So in this section, we are supposed to show to protect children from online violence, these are the things that require resources for. Now that plan is a separate document, well done. But what have we done now? The same people who developed the same plan, when they come here now, they're budgeting for dissemination. Then the next year we'll be saying government is not financing implementation of online violence plan. But it's the same government that is budgeting. So ask yourself, who is this person who drafted this section? In my view, I'm not government, but I would traced up to the person. So I asked this person, so you have this document known as National Plan of Action for Online Child Sexual Exploitation. It is here. But then you're the same person who is typing dissemination. So what stopped you from typing the interventions so that you budget for interventions?
Who is the person?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I would ask that. Now let me show you. This is interesting, guys. Now, Children Act, right? What is here in terms of rolling it out? Are you with me?
Yes.
National Council for Children's Services.
Yes.
Number of dissemination forums of the Children Act. You seeing it?
Yes.
How many forums? In 2023, 2024?
5 forums.
At what level? Nobody knows.
Wow.
Now, that this target for 2022-23 is this year, the one that's written 5.
Yes.
Then we have 5 the next year. So how did you arrive at 5?
We have another 5. We have another 5.
So this year, the current 5, you are disseminating the Children Act to 5 forums. So what's a forum? Of 5 people, 2 people, are they forum for children, for adults, for government officials? Look at the next thing of the Children Act. Have you seen dissemination? After dissemination, what else are you seeing? Number of TOT trained on M&D framework on the implementation. Are you seeing that?
Yes, I can see
Huh?
that.
So now we want to train people on the M&D framework for Children Act. Sidio, where is the framework? You have not developed it. You have not developed an implementation framework. The message I'm saying, what we need to ask the State Department for Social Protection, what is your implementation arrangement for the Children Act? The Children Act provided for certain things, that the certain sections of that law that you implement by regulations. So what is your plan to develop and finalize these regulations, and which ones are they? Some of them required guidelines. What is your plan to develop guidelines? However, other institutions have their share of responsibility for implementing the law.
Okay.
So unless we first of all analyze the Children Act by the actor to implement the law, the actor known as State Department for Social Protection, what is your share of responsibility in implementing this law? How are you budgeted for it? Another actor, that way, I haven't seen it. If you have it, perhaps it'll be good to look at it.
All right. I don't have it.
But anyway, if you have any questions that people are asking, we need to start responding to them.
So maybe now as we like we're almost concluding. So if you have a question, please feel free to share your question. Someone is telling me they are losing sound. I don't know if the sound is back. Okay, it's back. So if you have a question, kindly, you are on Zoom, please share your question. We will be able to respond. If you have your comments that you'd like to share in this conversation, please feel free to raise your hand, and we'll be able to respond to you. And maybe, Don, as we continue, how much, like we've looked at the skeleton. Let me say the skeleton.
Yes.
Of what the department or the Directorate of Children's Services wants to do. And maybe perhaps have you seen the amounts that have been allocated for this so far?
I'll finish the amounts. I don't want to lose out before I talk about State Department for Gender.
Okay.
Work with me on that section. I've just put for you Anti-GBV Directorate.
Okay.
If you're able to see the screen,
Yes, I can see it.
Are you seeing Anti-GBV Directorate?
Yeah.
Campaign against GBV.
Yes.
Now, that we have a directorate that what they want to do is media platforms engaged, 16 days of activism, religious leaders dialogues, duty bearers trained, then you say there's a campaign against GBV. So let me ask you, where is the problem? We have GBV technical working group, we have all manner of experts from the civil society, from the private sector, from the UN community, that already are doing a campaign against GBV with a lot of lovely, innovative campaign strategies. But when it comes to what we are putting here, what is the problem? Everyone listening to me, I know they have good strategies to end GBV. So where is the missing link? How come people go to government gender technical working group? We will have a commission known as this is coming document. Look at the next thing. GBV information system. Development of GBV management and information system. Are you seeing it?
Yes.
That GBV is an urgent issue. Look at the target, 50% development. That even developing a system where I should be saying should have been done yesterday. So we are going to still plan to develop a GBV management and information system. What is stopping us from developing this year and now?
So you're going to take 2 financial years to develop.
All the expertise to develop a GBV information systems is available in the government, is available in the civil society, in the private sector, and the general community. So why are we still planning? Why can't we develop it now? The question of data has been a gap here. Data gap. Police data, gender data, children data, everyone data, NGO data. Let's sort it out. If it's a priority, why are we delaying it? Now, unfortunately, my brother,
then the stakeholders.
If we don't go back, there's another one, safe spaces, right? Are you seeing safe spaces?
Yes.
Now, the output is safe spaces. Number of county governments supported to refurbish, renovate safe houses. How many? In the next financial year? 8. This financial year, blank. So we are comfortable that we are waiting for July to ifike ndio tuanze kuassist counties to develop renovation, and people are saying we need safe spaces now. Okay. So it's clear the target for this year is blank, and we have 47 counties. Why 8? What criteria will you use to arrive at 8? Now, the assistance, we don't know whether it's technical assistance or financial assistance. Look at the next thing. Number of dignity kits for GBV survivor purchased. It means this year, 2022-2023 is blank. So it means this year, when GBV survivors are looking for assistance from government, it is clear there's no target, so the budget is zero. But if the budget is there, this has to be corrected. So if you have a survivor now requiring government interventions in terms of support, a technocrat government will tell you the target is zero, I have no money. So if government is honest, there is a target for assisting GBV survivors here, this current financial year cannot be zero. The last one, number of polycare centers and GBRC supported. Polycare is a very good innovation. We have seen it work in Nanyuki. So if we're really honest around protecting people from violations, especially young girls and women, why are we delaying? Why are we delaying developing polycares? We had a massive launch with all manner of visibility. In terms of budgeting, nothing. So guys, what I'm saying, demand for sector performance review reports, demand for proper analysis of people's problems, demand for proper strategy interventions before you ask, where is the money?
Okay.
Lastly, on the money, now that we
let's go to the money. I know everybody's waiting for the money.
We need to conclude.
Because of course, you're trying to compare what has been projected here and now the money that we want to do these things.
Yes. So, our government budgets, what will make sense for most of us is budgeting by program. Because I hope you're seeing the screen.
Not yet there. I think it's coming. It's not yet there, but as we wait for the screen to come, let me get a few comments here online. Yes, I'm told it's there, but
okay. As you see it,
okay, yes.
Now tell me, my grandmother in the village, would this make sense to her? She's a member of the public. So, State Department for Social Security and Protection, look at this gross budget, appropriation in aid, net. So, will this make sense to them? So, I'm just trying to ask a simple question. So, government has projected figures here.
Yeah.
I have my problems as a citizen, you have yours. I want to see how my problems are being budgeted for. This is what I see. Now, these figures, even if I read for you and told you the State Department for Social Security Protection has gross budget of this, a gross budget, and you add appropriation in aid, you get the net budget. I've still not answered to you as a government budgeted for your problem. You seeing it? So the message is, what we have here are block figures that will not make sense to anybody. I'm telling you, it doesn't make sense to anybody. Someone wants to know, show me the money that you're going to construct a GVRC in accounting. Show me the money on what you're going to do with the money. So government has done a program-based budget that is inadequate. In terms of outcome, output, and key performance indicators, you have seen the numbers. In terms of the budget, they have lumped the budget into programs. So you have money for a program, but under that program, there are sub-programs, and then the output. Someone prepared those figures. Why is government not disclosing everything? You understand?
Is there something being hidden from us?
I don't know. I'm just asking. We have access to information law, and this is the time for people to ensure that law is implemented. The right to information. So you are going to KICC to ask questions on a budget whose details you don't have. You have block figures. If you live in Mandera, you have no idea how much is being used in Mandera for anything. You live in Lamu, you have no idea how much. So you come from Lamu, you spend your money on a flight or on road to come to KICC for public participation, carry up your hand, you're asking for a matter for Lamu, the entire document does not have it. You narrow down to the program, you see the program budget, but don't see these indicators.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we need to do, colleagues, is to appreciate government has done fairly well in terms of improving on access to information. but the figures that you can read in this document will not make sense to you. Now look at this. Sector and subsector development requirements. Again, the other one I've showed was recurrent requirement. This one, development requirements. So what does this mean for you? If you see, for example, the State Department for Social Protection, you see their development requirements, right? Government of Kenya, 427 million. Development for what? What is it that the money will be used for? And where? I've seen a list of several things, constructing child welfare society centers, or there's some list somewhere, but you really need to know what are the things behind this, right? State Department for Gender. The development budget for the State Department for Gender is 2.7 billion. Development is capital budget. Now, we need to start asking, this is a straightforward question. The development budget for State Department for Gender is indicated here as 2.7 billion. What exactly is it for? We have an opportunity to demand that the development budget for State Department for Gender should be quickly put into the GVRC centers we're asking for. I'll give you the math. If you allocate every county government 10 million for GVRC center, you need how much money in 470 million, right? So make a very straightforward recommendation. Ensure that every county government as a GVRC center allocate 10 million shillings per county. The total money required is 470 million. We have not even finished the 2.7 billion for development for State Department of Gender. So when we say that it is targeting 8, so you are targeting GVRC 8, but the money you have for development is 2.7 billion, what do you want to do with it? Why are you under targeting and you have money to target properly? You target based on resource availability. So here you have 2.7 billion, but you are under targeting. Why are you under targeting? So those are specific questions that you can ask. Okay. If you look at budget by program now, right? Let me just give you an example for State Department for, which one now? State Department for Social Protection, or Social Security as they call it. Here we go. It's getting there shortly. Okay. So, oh, sorry, I'm not sharing. No.
Yeah, it's not sharing.
I'm seeing it here and I can't see it there. Okay. So here we go. Good. Are you seeing that document?
I think it's coming. Yes. Yeah, it is.
You seeing the SP? Huh? The column written SP.
Okay. I think I don't seem to see it.
Sorry?
I think is it on your side?
Okay. What are you seeing on the screen?
Okay, it's still the post-training information services.
Okay, I'm looking at page.
I'm still behind here.
There's a page that I'm looking at that has something written State Department of Social Protection, Social Security and Protection.
Yeah. Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
The SP12.
SP12
here.
The program here is Social Development and Children's Services Program. So P is program. Sawa.
Okay. I'm educated now.
Sawa. Tuko hapo pamoja?
Yes.
Okay. SP is a program. So work with me. So there's a program written Community Mobilization and Development. Sawa.
Yeah.
Those are budget figures. There's a program written Social Welfare. Those are budget figures. There's a program written Child Community Support Services. Those are figures. And then there's a program written Child Rehabilitation. So when you budget by program, what these guys have done, they have lumped the figures into sub-programs. So when you ask yourself, Child Community Support Services, this is, for example, the figure you are seeing here, you see this figure, this is 2.3 billion.
Yes.
Sawa sawa. So this 2.3 billion, what is it for? So before you ask difficult questions to me, please remember I'm not government.
Okay.
Remember I'm not government. Remember, I don't work for Treasury. I also don't work for the Department of Children Services.
But you can explain.
Now,
what
what
it
we
means.
need to know as citizens and members of the public,
Yeah.
every sector has a sector strategic plan. Then they have an implementation framework. Then have an annual work plan with budget. That annual work plan should come together with what we call cash flow projections. So those documents will give you the details. If you don't have them, all this you are asking, we are sanitizing a process known as the people came and participated. This is not meaningful participation. Meaningful participation of citizens in the budget process begins by civic education, educate the people so that they know what it is. Access to information, enable the people to have information. Then facilitate conversation in the community. Devolution requires that people engage in the community on both national and county government affairs, not boxing everybody at the national forum in Nairobi.
Okay, I think Don, we
Can
are
we close at that?
We are out of time, but maybe I need to let's get some comments here. I think it's been one long conversation, but I think we are getting something. Let me check on your comments. Mr. Noah Sangani, thank you very much. Good and practical analysis of gaps in budgeting for children. Thank you so much, Mr. Noah, for those comments. Mary Muinde says, thank you for great discussion. It's interesting the way the government is thinking on issues to do with children. Is there something we can do as civil society to salvage the situation and ensure children issues are well planned and budgeted for? If we are late to contribute, what can we do? Maybe, Don, can you respond to that question?
There is hope. We are not late in any way.
What can we do as civil society?
Let me first of all clarify, we are not late. We are just at the initial stages of budgeting.
Okay.
There's a great opportunity for us to correct these mistakes. When the public sector hearing ends tomorrow at KICC, the entire week next week, the sector working groups are supposed to consider the comments from the public. Let everyone who has a comment, if you cannot go to KICC, please write it down. Yeah. Be very specific on the page number. Send it to the sector working group, the PSS and the chairperson of some of the sector working groups. Thereafter, the sector will develop an improved version of the report. That improved version of the sector report will be summarized further, and the Treasury will use it to develop what we call the National Budget Policy Statement. The National Budget Policy Statement goes to Parliament by 14th of February. We all elected MPs. MPs have a responsibility to interrogate the National Budget Policy Statement between 14th of February and 28th of February. The recommendations the MPs make will be sent back to National Treasury by way of a memorandum. The National Treasury has a responsibility to implement all the recommendations from Parliament. So if you are unable to engage the sector working group, if you are unable to engage the National Treasury, look for your member of Parliament and tell your member of Parliament you want a budget for your constituency. Let them not lump everything national. Say, I elected you for this constituency. When you go to Nairobi, I want this in the budget. So give your national member of National Assembly some responsibility with some specific issues for him to use to interrogate the National Budget Policy Statement. In the month of March, when the National Budget Policy Statement is approved, it gives ceilings to sectors, it gives recommendations to be implemented. We have the entire March to go back to the sectors and shape our budgets. In April, the program-based budget goes to Parliament, end of April, right? Parliament has 2 months, again, to engage with the people. For the next 4 months is a defining moment for us to shape budgeting for children in this country, or we lose it. Some of us, for the last 5 years, we have a list of the recommendations we are giving every year, and to who, unfortunately, some of those recommendations were ignored. We hope this new administration will take seriously recommendations from citizens. Because if they do, then the children in this country, their well-being will improve. Very lastly, we must have a participation framework for our children. We must have a national framework for children to participate in this budget. We cannot say we are budgeting for them and they're not there. That opportunity is there if government means well for children. Even tomorrow, they can say, when schools open, the Ministry of Education will send a circular for children through schools to say what they want government to do for them. That's participation. I thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think actually you've mentioned that, and I remember we have a children's summit that is coming up for children across Africa and in Kenya to come and discuss their issues. This is not an adult summit, it's for children and children. All right, so it will be interesting to see what children will say. Of course, I'm sure they will mention something about the budget that is coming up.
Let me remind you, just so I don't forget, there's a UN general comment, number 19 of budgeting for children. So this matter, budgeting for children in Kenya we're discussing, is a global issue. The Committee on the Rights for Children developed a general comment, number 19, on budgeting for children, which governments, being state parties, are supposed to comply to. So when the head of state is reporting to Parliament how Kenya government is implementing international frameworks, we want to see him reporting how Kenya government is complying to the UN general comment on budgeting for children. For the last 5 years, I've analyzed the reports by the head of state to Parliament, nothing on that issue.
All right, thank you very much, Don. I think you can speak the whole day. But let me read this comment from Mr. Kariuki Alex, who says, we need to keep holding the government accountable on prioritization and resource allocation on programs geared towards improving the well-being of children. Great discussion. Thank you very much. Jacqueline Shiba. Okay, Jacqueline saying great discussion. We need to do a lot as a CSOs to advocate for improving the well-being of children. Maybe, is there anyone else who has a comment? Maybe they would like to speak on the Zoom platform. Okay, I think the silence means there is not there isn't anyone who's interested to speak. So, Don, as we conclude, what next from here?
For me, I'm just saying I'm offering my services to the country. I really feel I want to shape these things. Okay. So let's keep the conversation, because you see, unless we create awareness, me and you may not be at KICC, but unless we create more awareness, we need to create a movement of people who are going to advocate for budgeting for children. If we improve budgeting for children, then we improve implementing programs for children and their well-being improve. Just that.
And maybe someone might be wondering, how can CSOs, collectively participate in this process? Because you've talked much about the individual participation.
Okay. These are the 4 things I'm recommending for CSOs from an oversight perspective. CSOs must interact with the annual reports of the Auditor General. The Auditor General has very good findings and recommendations that CSOs can learn from to help strengthen budgeting. Secondly, the Controller of Budget develops quarterly implementation reports on budgets. CSOs need to interact with those documents. Fourthly, capacity development. CSOs should invest more in building capacity of communities for civic engagement, so that is the people will speak by themselves. And very lastly, CSOs must be on the table. If you are not on the table, you're on the what? You're on the menu. So civil society organizations must be on the table. If they're not the sector working groups, no one will listen to them.
How?
The sector working group, if you're an organized agency, the principal secretary would admit you to a sector working group unless they don't want. Okay. Any serious civil society organization write to a PS and say, we would like to add value to your planning and budgeting process. Admit us to your sector. You will find space to engage from within. We shouldn't wait to complain that things are bad. We have a new administration. This is the starting point. Let us engage.
So you admit that the CSOs themselves are a problem in the first place?
I would blatantly admit the civil society has their share of responsibility in some of these gaps. How much, let me ask you, how much donor money, look at the NGO reports, how much donor money come to civil society in the country? The same way we're asking government difficult questions. Have you seen civil society publicly showing what they're doing with the money?
All right, it's becoming hot
Just
here.
some of them, but not all of them. Just hold on.
Yes.
Ask yourself, if the NGO Coordination Board publishes a report of how much donor money came and were used by NGO, and there's a list of NGO, go to these NGO websites. Why are they not providing in their websites the annual reports and the annual budgets? So the same standards that we want to hold government accountable, we must hold ourselves accountable with the same standard. The standards are the same.
All right. We must hold ourselves accountable with the same standards, the same way we want to hold government accountable. Thank you very much, Mr. Elijah Don Bonyo, for your contribution in this discussion today. It's one of its kind, the first one, and we are going to continue having these discussions around budgeting for children. How can we better participate in these processes? For us to be heard, of course, it's not a one-person affair. It's all of us. If we go all of us, then there's a likelihood of us getting heard. But if we go as individually, then there is a likelihood of us failing. Thank you very much. See you again next time. My name is Colin Sorono, and bye-bye.